Right, hello, good evening, and welcome. Yes, this is a completely inappropriate Ron Says Bugrit t-shirt. If you're offended by that, tough. My name is Paul. I'm also called Knickknack. I run Knickknacks of Peculiar, the blog. I do the daily teaser quiz. Please feel free to subscribe to the blog and my YouTube channel if you want to follow those. You can also subscribe if you want to hear what I think of various episodes of various films. I saw Superman, the original, a few months ago. And you can also see what I think of various episodes of various TV shows. As you may or may not know, I've been following Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And this review will tell you what I thought of episode 2, Wedding Bell Blues. Let's start off with a quick summary, shall we? Episode 2, Wedding Bell Blues, opens with a summary of the relationship to date between Spock, Ethan Peck, and Nurse Christine Chapel, Jess Bush, showing us its ups, downs, and inevitable collapse. As it shows us there, the pair's informal agreement to separate whilst Christine attends a course. The scene shifts to show us Spock dictating his personal log some 3 months after Hegemony Part 2, and 3 months after the Enterprise has docked at Starbase 1 for repairs. Repairs needed after the ship's near-fatal run-in with the Gorn. Spock reminds us that it's Federation Day, the anniversary of the founding of the Federation, and it calls for a lot of celebration, especially given that Nurse Christine Chapel is due to return to the ship. Unfortunately for Spock, a very happy Nurse Chapel arrives with Dr. Roger Colby, Killian O'Sullivan, in tow. The reason Nurse Chapel feels like Ian Deary feels quite simply cheerful, Dr. Colby's her new boyfriend. And somebody isn't happy about that, and it's not necessarily the body that you think it is. Now, what did I make of Wedding Bell Blues, of an episode that's the franchise's first romantic comedy since Looking for Parmac in All the Wrong Places? For starters, yes, Wedding Bell Blues is a romantic comedy. The past couple of series have told us that T'Pring's engaged to Spock, Spock's in love with her and in love with Nurse Chapel, Christine Chapel has moved on from Spock and, after spending 3 months with him, has utterly fallen for Dr. Roger Colby, for Dr. Colby isn't keen on the wedding plans, let alone the wedding planner. You can tell that there's going to be issues, funny or otherwise. We see that from near enough the start of the episode when the crew hold a welcoming party for Nurse Chapel and her new partner. Bush and O'Sullivan are your classic honeymooning couple and played as such by both actors. Ethan Peck shows us exactly how Spock is feeling in the initial party scene and in a later one when he punches Roger Colby. To quote Captain Sulu, you can't tell me Vulcans don't have a sense of humour, and the incredibly wonderful captain was rather right. Casual viewers of the Star Trek franchise will tell you that Vulcans are all about logic and all about having a lack of emotion. Fans of the show will tell you differently. They'll tell you this: the Vulcans have emotions, have an emotional life, have feelings, but are usually better at restraining them. Unless they're ill, or disturbed, or stressed. Getting dumped can be very stressful, even for a Vulcan. There is possibly a lot more to say about this episode. Granted, there are a few things that caught my eye. First things first, of course, Rhys Darby from Flight of the Conchords. In case you didn't know, he plays the villain of the piece, the being who the episode only refers to as the wedding planner, but who IMDb and Wikipedia identify as Trelane. In other words, as the villain from the classic series episode, The Squire of Gothos. The episode even repeats or does its own version of the climax of the original series episode by showing us that Darby's character is an adolescent member of the species, and shows us that by showing his father, unnamed in the credits, but voiced by the oh-so-identifiable voice of John Delancey, Q, himself, comes to take him away. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. It's repeating an earlier character and an earlier plot point. To counter that, it is a very well done reuse. It's a lot better than similar repeats in Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek Discovery. It's much better done, I felt. There's another point in amongst all this as well, or possibly I should say plot point to try and be accurate. At the end of this episode, we see Captain Pike noticing that his pilot, the Lieutenant Erica Ortegas, Melissa Navia, is refusing to dance. She's refusing politely, but in a way that seems very retiring for such a gregarious woman. Possibly Ortegas is somewhat tired. Possibly she's not in the mood for a party. Or possibly there's a lot going on in that head of hers. We see her quietly leaving the party and then angrily working out on the punch bag in the ship's gyms, or one of the ship's gyms. The look on Erica's face tells us to be glad that we ain't the punch bag. She's not in a particularly good mood. But we then see, reflected in the glass of one of the ship's portholes, we then see the ghost that's haunting Erica's memory. It's a Gorn. Erica, it seems, has been more damaged by being a Gorn prisoner, far more damaged than she's letting on. What more can I tell you about this episode? There are possibly a few things we could sort out here. One thing does occur to me, and that is quite simply, I've picked up on it already, but it's quite simply this. Erica Ortegas has been deeply wounded. Deeply wounded. It occurs to me she's been left with a case of PTSD, of post-traumatic stress disorder, and that this could well be spun out over the rest of this series. Will it see her leaving? I hope not. I know that Erica Ortegas is eventually replaced as the ship's pilot by Hikaru Sulu, the George Takei character. But I personally, at the moment, would prefer to see her left in the show. She's a sympathetic character and she gets some of the funniest lines. But I'm also aware that, sensitively done, seeing Erica deal with mental health issues would make for a good, entertaining story, which I know is possibly the wrong word to use of a person dealing with mental health issues, but it could make for a watchable story and simultaneously raise awareness of the subject and hopefully reduce stigma around things like PTSD as well. Again, though, let me stress what I think are the important words there. Sensitively done. I think that's got to be the important point there if we're handling such a serious issue. There's more. There's plenty more. The relationship between Spock and Christine Chapel seems to have turned a corner. They're now involved with other people. Nurse Chapel with Roger Colby, and Spock seems to be developing something with Lieutenant Noel Noonien Singh, the Christina Chong character. So the pair seem to be friends now that the relationship is at an end. That's a good way to take things, I think, and it seems to broadly match my dim and distant memories of how Majel Barrett and Leonard Nimoy played the relationship and played the pair back in the original 60s series. There's a couple of other minor things to talk about, although one of them is bloody annoying, it's got to be said. Yes, Wedding Bell Blues is an old-fashioned romantic comedy. Now, I'm not usually a fan of them, but the episode is a comedy for the most part and very funny. The bit that made me really laugh was when I recognised John Delancey's voice as Q, I suppose we should call the character, but I recognised Delancey's voice about a second into his dialogue, and it had me both laughing and yelling, "Oh, you've got to be beeping kidding!" The last point, and this is a technical one that's going to annoy the bejeebers out of me, I must confess, is towards the end of the episode, Scotty and Mabenga, Martin Quinn and Babs Olsen-Mook are at the bar, and it's Scotty's round. So Scotty orders 2 pints of Guinness, one for him, one for the doctor. It's an old tradition, go look it up if you get the chance, and you're not British or Scottish or English or Northern Irish or Welsh. It's an old tradition here in the UK, you buy a round. But whatever it was, whatever the tradition and whatever it is they get, those weren't Guinness. Trust me, I'm an ex-barman, and those weren't Guinness. I was a barman for a decade. I pride myself on knowing how to do the two-part draft Guinness pour and or shamrocks in the head, and more importantly, I know what draft Guinness looks like. Don't get me started on the size differences between a US and a UK pint. But whatever it is that Scotty got given in that episode is not draft Guinness. It might well be the bottled export Guinness, but it's certainly not the draft Guinness I would expect in that situation. The froth, the head, is just completely, utterly wrong. So, what did I make of Wedding Bell Blues? What did I make of an episode that is an unashamed romantic comedy of an episode that I felt myself laughing at more than once, whilst recognising those aforementioned dark sections of an episode that has at least one severely annoying technical error, the Guinness, that is going to bother me for years. I loved it. I absolutely bloody loved it and think it's a very good episode indeed. I think you should go watch this one because I think you will enjoy it as well. Right, this is where I am going to leave things for now, apart from doing or asking a couple of things. First off, if you'd subscribe to my channel, you'd be perfectly welcome to. If you'd hit the like button, you'd be perfectly welcome to do that. My tip jar, if you'd like to tip, is in the corner there. And every penny helps in these sort of straitened times. It all helps run this channel, so please feel free if you're in the mood to. The only other thing I should add is that I shall be watching the next episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Shuttle to Kenfori it's called. I'll be doing that tomorrow, the 24th of July. I will be publishing my written and video reviews by the following Saturday. I will hopefully see you then. Have fun, good night, take care, be good, and as one man said wisely on several times,
be seeing you.